married to an ADHD person. I'm personally really excited about this. My husband asked for it. He said, "Where's my room for me? Like, how do I deal with an ADHD wife?" And I was like, "Well, it's
Yep.
gonna happen.
Yep.
So we'll record it for you, and it'll be all good, and you'll get to learn how to deal with me." So I'm so excited to have this woman here. She is amazing, incredible. Got to know her very well over the last couple of months, hanging out in her rooms, hearing her speak. She is amazing. She's a great speaker. She has great relationship or advice for being married to ADHD. And we are going to open up for questions. So get your questions ready and get those hands up. At about 20 minutes in, we'll start bringing people up. It is my pleasure and my honor to introduce to you Miss SARA LERNER. Welcome, Sarah.
Aw, what a nice introduction. Thank you. It's fun to be here, Val and Summer. This is so exciting. I'm sorry I missed Chris. That would have been fun to hear.
It was
Yes.
super fun. It was super
Guess I'll
fun.
have to hit you up for the recording.
Yes, we
Yes.
got it all done.
Oh shoot, do we need to? I guess we can't add the recording button on this one. We'll just keep reminding everybody.
Yes.
Or is it being recorded?
Yeah, it's already recorded. The JC is my husband's account that I created because it was way too complicated for me to do it
That
from
makes
my
sense.
account. So yeah,
Awesome.
that's JC.
Well, thanks you two. This is so good. This is so fun.
Yes, we are super excited. And so we would love to hear, Sarah, I know that you have kind of carved a niche for yourself out here in Clubhouse and kind of by accident, right? And, talking about your relationship and being in these rooms and, being able to really share your experience of, being married to someone with ADHD and how that has kind of, prompted you to share your experience. So we'd love to hear a little bit about, if you can tell us a little bit about your experience and, what is it like? How did you get into this Clubhouse space and talking about this topic?
Sure. So, what I want to say first is that I realize that when we say, oh, an ADHD relationship or an ADHD marriage, or I have ADHD, I wonder what that's like for my husband, or my wife has ADHD, and what's that like for? I have learned that means something different for every person. And that makes sense, of course, because ADHD is not the same from person to person. But I think that that's extremely important to sort of talk about up front, because ADHD is not just this one size fits all thing. And there's a lot of, a lot of emotion that can go into saying, hey, what's it like my HD and how that's impacting my relationship? Or what's it like my husband? In my case, of course, I don't, claim to know exactly what it's like, but my, what's it like for me? And so it's all different. And that's what I want to say up front. So yeah, my husband and I have been together for about 10 years, and it was about 3 years ago that he was diagnosed with ADHD. Now, he actually was when he was 19, but kind of wrote it off like, I'm not going to just take drugs for the rest of my life. I don't really buy into it. And we had talked about that, and I thought that made complete sense to me. So, what I find really interesting is that we, you know, interesting is an understatement. What happened was, you know, once we started really saying, oh, okay, you're diagnosed, even then it was like, okay, yeah, good to know. Actually, I think it was 4 years ago. But then it was more like a couple of years, 2 to 3 years ago, that we started really diving into like, oh, what does that mean? And realizing that and for me, realizing that it was so much more than I had ever given it credit. Like and this is where I really like to talk about my own role in saying, you know what? I was exasperated with him, like a lot, and I don't think that that was right, and I think that it was damaging. So, I think that we didn't have like an upfront, very aware dialogue going about saying like, hey, I try in the same way, or me being aware, like, hey, you know I'll give you guys examples. And Val, you can please interrupt me if I'm just like kind of rambling and you want me to go in a different direction. Um, but it's like, I'll give examples. Okay. So I always end up bringing up this one. I don't know why, it just is like super simple, but maybe it's the simplified version, but it's like, um, he just leaves his wallet in the car, all the time, and leaves the car unlocked. And sometimes the wallet's in the car unlocked, like on the seat. And we have a neighborhood in Seattle that is you know, pleasant during the day, and at night there's tons of car prowls, and people are stealing catalytic converters too all the time. But there's lots of car prowls and car theft. It's just car prowl theft is it's just very, very common. And so we have to lock the doors. We can't leave mail sitting in the seat. We can't leave, certainly not a wallet sitting in the seat. So it kind of freaks me out. So, you know, I think that looking back years ago, I'd be like, oh my God, hun, like you left your wallet in the car again. Annoyed, irritated, exasperated. It's just not cool. It's just not helpful. It's not okay. And that's my attitude now. It's not okay. And then fast forward to recently, if I see that happen now, I bring his wallet in and I don't say anything about it, because he's going to beat himself up more than I am. And there's just that, why would I want to add to his shaming of himself? I'm not going to do that. So, that might be different for different relationships. It might be that somebody, they want a reminder, like, hey, let's, you want a partner to say, hey, let's do this or that differently. You got to figure out what it is for yourselves. For me and his wallet, I know there is absolutely no point in me pointing it out to him, because now I know that's like a taking something that's wounded and making it more wounded. And so fast forward to like something that happened to us that was a few weeks ago, and I'm not going to tell the whole story because that's his story to tell, but um, it was a big deal. It was a very important bureaucratic thing, and he just misread it. He thought one thing, but it was actually a different thing. So that's understandable. It's like it's total like government website that you have to go through and navigate and deal with it and da da da. When I understood what happened, I knew that he was freaking out because this is a big deal for him. And I was, obviously I'm not going to say anything about it that's like, oh my gosh, but like maybe silently I'm like, oh my gosh, is this going to cost us like um his new job? Like, is that, like things that are big. I might be thinking that silently, but I'm not going to show it. And and we had this conversation where I was like, listen, dude, you're fine. Like, you went into this fight with one arm, whereas I would have gone into this fight with two, like anybody else might have gone in with, sort of like you're going into the boxing ring and you've only got one arm. So don't beat yourself up about it. You've got all these other things going. And so it's just a different supportive relationship where, and I think that that's because we've had so much education about what's actually going on and how we are different. Like, I cannot use my reality to understand his reality, and that is key. That is the very, very crucial um, element to really understand.
Oh my goodness.
So
That is so good, because I think back to like my recent discussions with my husband, and I feel like I don't always offer so much grace. Like, it's like, well, I do pick my battles, but when this serious thing happened, like I definitely kind of came at him like da 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 da, like do do do, and it wasn't like what's going on, you know. And so that's really good to
yeah,
hear that.
well, it's and that's the thing, is it's important to know there's so many nuances, and every relationship is different, and things evolve in different ways. And in this case, in this time, that was the right thing to do for me because, you know, he was devastated about it. And I knew that, you know? So, that was the, you know, and maybe it was different in your case for whatever issue it is that you're thinking about. So yeah. What else you had mentioned how it all started for me with Clubhouse. Did you want to hear more about that, or tell me which direction to go? Because you know I can do whatever.
Oops, I was muted. Yeah, I think that, you know, how did you get into the relationship space with, I know that for you, it kind of just happened organically on social media or on Clubhouse when you started talking about it. You kind of got placed in this position of being, you know, the relationship married to the ADHD person. So how did that start for you? And what was that experience like? And how does that affect your relationship? I wonder, because I know for my husband, and Summer was mentioning this earlier too, my husband's a very private person. Like he doesn't even like, you know, when I tag him on social media because then a bunch of people friend request him. And how has that affected your relationship?
Right. Yeah. That's a very good question. And I probably should talk about this more often because people might be curious, like, is he cool with this? He is not a very private person. And I'm not either. So it actually works out really well. I basically just constantly check in with him and I'm like, is this okay that we're talking about it? He's like, yeah, why wouldn't it be? You know? And I think that there's also a lot of trust there where there's certain stories that he's not going to want to um you know, he's not going to want me to tell, or I, you know, and I have sort of like, for example, that story that I just told, if that had been something about like a wallet or leaving soda in the freezer to get it cold, or like, you know, a beer in the fridge, like something, you know, just a little bit more minor or more comical, like I think he just trusts that I have a good sense of like what's the kind of thing that I can share. And then there's other things that are really, you know, personal and really meaningful that like I feel like that's his story to share, or like what meds he's on or something. You know, obviously I'm not going to talk about that. Like there's things that so I just think there's a lot of trust there. You know, I know a lot of relationships have big issues around trust, and we have big issues. we have we have some uh, we have some really really big issues, but trust is not one of them. We've never really had, we know all each other's passwords, and I mean I'm not saying everyone needs to know each other's, but we do we just have a lot of trust, and so I think that that's why this works. Also, I think it's really relevant that I'm a journalist. I mean, I've been doing interviewing and, you know, educating people on complex issues for my entire career. I've spent my that began in 2002. So I'm, yeah, I'm not a young pup. Whenever I say that, I'm like, oh no, everybody knows I'm old, but that's okay. I don't care. No shame here. But yeah, and old is relative anyway. But yeah, I was spent 17 years as a radio journalist, and I still do journalism, but I do storytelling more in the corporate world now. But you know, interviewing people and, like I said, taking a complex issue and kind of distilling it down into plain language that everybody can understand is my entire like area of expertise. So that's what happened, was I was just like devouring, just completely devouring information on ADHD, because I was like, give it all to me, let me eat it up, you know, like just let me take it in, take it in, take it in. And I was like, and my mind was blown at how common our issues were. Like, wow, you know, like just opening it up and looking around, and holy mackerel, couple over there, couple over there, couple over there, couple over there, they're all dealing with the exact same thing. They're all talking about their relationship and it sounds like my relationship. Like I just couldn't believe it. And so then I was like, whoa, I got to keep talking about this because, you know, and I also felt a little bit like, you know, I'm smart. Like I'm on top of things. I know what's up. And still, I didn't, we had thrown around ADHD like it was this thing. Oh yeah, you're ADHD. And not even realized like that means you shouldn't be a jerk about him leaving his wallet in the car, dude. You know, it's like ADHD is a thing that is a very big deal, and it's and it has a big impact, and on our life, on his life, Again, I have to always repeat, ADHD, everybody's ADHD is different, and it is a spectrum, but in our case, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. And so I just felt myself being drawn to talking about it more. And the other thing is that, enter Clubhouse. I mean, radio is my career, right? So I'm like, okay, we have this whole medium where there's only talking. I'm like, well, that makes sense to me. Like, let's go. So I started grabbing people and just interviewing them and asking them questions, because that's what I've been doing, as I said, like through my career, but really getting to the heart of the matter of something via interviewing, is my love and joy. And I think that the reason that I've always said radio is the best medium is because it's more intimate. When people talk, you feel like they're talking directly to you. And so I think that that's one of the reasons Clubhouse works so well. It's really, it's incredible. And so I've been having a lot of fun, getting on here and interviewing people and learning. And then who knew that I was going to develop into this, like a lovely community where I have all these friends, and now I have like all these friends with ADHD, women, badass women with ADHD. It's fun. I love it. So that's been incredible too. So I think you should tell me where I should go, Val, because I feel like I'm back to that point where I'm like, and I can keep talking about whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm loving this conversation. I'm just absolutely loving it. And I think that, yeah, you touched on something that is very relevant with, the whole trust thing. Like you said, oh yeah, we have each other's passwords. We know everything. Like that's works for you guys. And I know that, maybe that's not everyone's thing to give up passwords and do all that, which is okay. But I think the key that you mentioned is that level of trust, right? I think, like Summer had mentioned this earlier, talking about more of like sexual relationships and like fantasies and, exploring that. But I think that no matter what in relationships, like it's so important. And I think especially, okay, so we're all women here, perfect. So especially for women, like I've noticed that most women, like they need that trust and to feel desired in their relationships. And so, and then, usually generally men want to be respected and they want to, be admired by the woman that they love. So when there's that lack of trust, right? And I don't know if you guys have experienced anything like that, where you've gone through a season where maybe you had to rebuild trust or something happened. But what do you recommend for people who are in that space where maybe they need to rebuild that trust? And, ADHD people do not have a lot of patience. We want it right now and we want it today. And we want that trust to be established and for all to work out like yesterday, right? So what do you recommend for people who are in that space?
Okay. Good question. And this one I am not going to speak from deeply personal experience, because we've got, like I said, we really do have significant things that we were working on. But trust hasn't been that hasn't been one necessarily. So, but I think that some of the same tools that we've been using would apply. And what it is frequent check-ins and frequent, especially, with kids and I'm not, I know it's annoying when you don't have kids and you're like, oh, we're talking about, so it's not only with kids, but you just run out of time. And so, we were trying to have like a 15-minute meeting once a week. It took us like 20 minutes to try to figure out when we could possibly sit down 15 minutes together. I mean, or maybe 30 minutes where we were just like going back and forth and back and forth. Like, I don't know. What about then? What about that? I mean, it was so hard. And so just realizing like, wow, we're having a hard time just even talking, like even spending a few minutes to have a meeting together, much less a date. So I think that, in building up a trust, that's also building up a connection, and you really have to like work at it. You have to work at it the way that you work at, um, you know, learning a language. Like, okay, I'm going to learn Spanish. I'm going to download the tapes. I'm going to listen to it while I drive around in my car. Relationships, I think, should be worked on in the same way. Like, you know what? I am going to take minutes in the morning that are relationship time. I'm going to take 5 minutes, and the two of us are going to decide to spend that time hugging each other, or asking about each other's day in the evening, or something like that, or 15 minutes. So I think that building up trust is really about building up all these little moments of connection, and finding ways to be together, and be connected. Because I think that if you start from there, and then you can build into other areas, and then you can and go from there. So
Wait, did you go blank or was that me?
does that make sense, Val?
Okay, you were quiet for just a
Oh wait,
second,
my
I
phone
thought.
rang. I was just
Yeah.
saying,
Oh, I got you.
that I think that that's a way to get it started, and then build it from there. And then I just was saying, does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. That does. Thank you. All
I
right.
have another thought. So also what I've experienced is like you have to be willing. You both have to be willing, when you're trying to build trust. So if just one person is trying to do that, then it's not going to work, right? I have a friend who, she was in and is still in a really difficult relationship. And it was really hard for me to see that like she was trying so hard and he could care less at that point. And so it really is impossible to do it and have it be one-sided. So really just, being aware of the situation and how it's affecting you personally so that you don't continue or have this, resentment. Because I know like the longer I keep it inside, which isn't very often, being honest, like yeah, the longer, you have the disconnect, the harder it's going to be to build that trust, right? So yeah, that's just one thing. You both have to be very, very willing. So yeah, so, Val, did you have any thoughts on that? And then we can kind of go forward with questions or for Sarah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, being willing, that's such a great point that you're bringing up. And I don't know if this is true for all ADHD people, but being a very verbal person, I feel like sometimes it's easier to listen to the words and be like, oh, yeah, yeah, they're saying they're going to do it, or they say they're willing. But then, for me, the biggest lesson I've learned in any relationship, whether if that's romantic, a partnership, anything, is like really not just listening to words. And for myself too, because I'm really good at saying, oh, yeah, yeah, like I'll do that and then I'll forget. But like creating a system where I remember. But, watching people's actions, not just listening to their words, is such a pertinent thing for me that I've had to learn, because I have a tendency to be super optimistic and just believe that if someone says they're going to do it, they're going to do it. Or if they say they're willing to work, they're going to. But that's not always the case, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. I seriously totally understand what you're saying because um, I feel I feel the same way, in any relationship, right? It's just part of it, it's difficult to do something without somebody else that's involved in, moving forward with that. So, yeah. So do we want to, Sarah, do you have any thoughts that you want to share? And then we'll open it
Yeah,
up to questions.
I could share one last thought. Sure. Um, so it's it's a hard topic, and it's sad and scary. So, abuse happens in relationships, and this goes back to, I just want to share a quick thought. This goes back to what I was saying, that when you say, oh, ADHD in relationships, everyone's thinking of something different, and I have, um, I have talked to, and I'm close with a couple, but I've talked to, several, in this case, women who were in relationships that ended up abusive, with a partner with ADHD. On the other hand, there's an article in Attitude magazine today about how to get out, how to realize, how to um, recognize that you're in an abusive relationship. And this was from the perspective of the ADHD partner who was in an abusive relationship with his wife. And the abuse was more around like shaming all the time for those actions. And so I mention that just because relationships can be hard, and this is serious stuff. And it goes along with my message that like it looks so different in so many different ways, and it's all about how do we figure out what's right for our needs and our each individual needs, because we cannot talk about like, oh, it happens like this, or oh, it happens like that, because it can happen, things happen in so many different ways. So that is my thought to share on that.
Awesome. Yeah, we really appreciate that because it is so incredibly true, you know. Okay, so let's open it up. Hi, Felissa. How are you
I
doing?
am good. Hi, guys. Hi, Summer, Val, Sarah. Thank you. I just love the whole ADHD month because I love hearing from you guys and experts and hearing from new people in the community and in this space. So, with that being said, I am Felissa and I have ADHD and I have a daughter that has ADHD and a poor husband that has to deal with it. However, what I will say in what I've learned, and I'm still learning every day. I just got that little like, can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you great, Felissa.
Okay, great. I just got that little red bar. Um, is that we do struggle a lot. And I hear you say it too, Sarah. And I'm not ashamed to say it. It's work. And I think many people, an ADHD partner or a non ADHD partner, marriage is work. Family is work. It's parenting is to me one of the hardest jobs and the only job that there's no manual for. There's no training. Same with marriage. There's no manual. There's no training. Um, and where we always end up coming back to circling is is hyper focusing on my priorities, what's important to me. A lot of kids do it too, but as an adult, an ADHD adult, is as we all know, we hyper focus on what we enjoy, what stimulates us, what makes us happy, what we want more of. And by doing that, unfortunately, it seems that what my husband needs from me is not a priority. That's how it would seem to him. And looking, trying to see from the outside, I can see that when it comes to responsibilities, when it comes to, you know, just being around the house or dropping off a UPS or things he asked me to do. And when I forget, it hurts. It's hurtful to him. Now he, sometimes I'm like, babe, I didn't mean to, or, come on, I didn't mean to. And so many times I've said, I just need you to make a list. Let's have a list on the, on the kitchen, whatever counter. So we see it every day and blah, blah, blah. And the first thing he said to me was, it's like I had a third child. And he's like, why? If I need to tell you what to do, I might as well do it myself. And part of me, I want to go, yeah, so then do it like my daughter does. But when we have an ADHD spouse, for a moment there after I kept, I also have to be aware and be understanding that what am I going to do for him? I'm asking him to do all these things for me. Remember, I have ADHD. Remember, I didn't take or did you, did I take my meds or, um, make a list for me. And he is so supportive. I am so grateful. He's so supportive of all the business ventures I had and every idea and every passion that's come to, the top of my mind. He's always supportive. And I'm very grateful. I feel like there are many things that I have not done or take as a responsibility. And some of it I think is because, and he will say, he's nervous and won't get done. He does the grocery shopping, he does the cooking, he does the bills. He enjoys shopping and cooking. So I don't even make a sandwich. He enjoys that. But he does financial, it just is what we have a little bit of a role reversal life. Not that that's bad. We know our roles. And I sometimes have to remember, if I'm asking him to recognize or to make a list or to um, remember that I might not have taken my meds, I also have to do my part and put something in place so that it looks like his priorities are important to me as well. And I think that's what's, so many times we are impulsive and, we jump on them and we become defensive. But I don't know about anybody else, but I need to ask myself, am I also supporting him and his needs? He takes on a lot of responsibilities. And it's probably because I don't step up a lot, because I'm hyper focusing on something else. He's very aware of that. And I'm, like I said, grateful for it. He is a hands on dad. Um, but I feel like, just I need to remember that it's okay for me to say I'm sorry. And he is wonderful about it. But the next time I need to, how many times can I say I'm sorry? So we just need to be, I'm not blaming or putting blame, but for me personally, I try to keep in mind that he may need some things to let him know that he's a priority as well, or that I am also a responsible part of the family. So I'm sure I'll have more to say later, but that's what I'm going to say now. And I don't know if anyone else has anything they like to add to it, or Sarah, what you and your husband, knowing that he might need certain things, if it's a list, if it's a honeydew list where, I'd love to hear that. But we go back and forth about me trying to point out where he needs to change. So so I can get things done. So I'd love to know what your take on that, or that's it. I'm Felissa. I'm never done speaking, but
um, yeah. So, okay. I think that merely the acknowledgement of like, okay, so we've determined that your roles are your role is this and my role is that, and your role is the bills and the this and this and that of the housework, and like all of this stuff that really adds up, and the scale starts to feel tipped big time, So let's say that's happening, but simply saying like what you just said, Felissa, like if I heard that from my husband, like, wow, I acknowledge how much you're doing. I think that he, just as an example, I think that that's the kind of thing that he might think all the time in his own head, but doesn't always, and so he thinks that it's obvious that I know, but it isn't. It isn't obvious that I know. I want to hear it. I want to hear it. Like, that would help. That helps me. So I think that that's a wonderful example of how you have to work at that give and take of what's our roles, and okay, if I'm going to do all that, what else can I do, um one of the things my husband does for me all the time is makes my coffee. It's small, and it's not like hours of work into like applying for our preschools or whatever, but it's nice. So so thanks for sharing that.
yeah, thank you for your input as well. And it probably is something I should say more often. And it is. He has a lot of responsibility. And, sometimes I say, I'm acting like a third child. Why, I'm waiting for him to say, are you ready for dinner? I'm waiting. And not always, but I just think, like I said, our brains are wired differently. And I do appreciate him. And I probably don't tell him enough. So thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, if I can add to that too, Felissa. So I have the same situation as you as well. So my husband, now that he has more time, and he's home a lot more now, he does the cooking and the cleaning because I don't like it now. I used to. I never liked it ever. But so yeah, I totally get it. And sometimes a partner that's able to do that doesn't always ask for what they need. And so I think you're totally right in saying, he needs to know that he's a priority. And also that, and this has become more of a thing, probably like over COVID, we really struggled, not because we were together too much, but because our ideals of what our family should be doing and what it looks like were very different. And so that was a really big struggle for us. But I got to a point where I was just like, I can be me and you can be you, you know, and when we allow them, like when they allow us that space, we have to think, okay, we have to allow them their that space as well. Space for like, you know, imperfection or, you know, just making mistakes or doing things wrong that we don't like. Like my husband's a serious introvert, you know, and when he was working a lot, he would sometimes come home and like sit on the couch and like barely talk or barely say anything. So I spent the first like 10 years of our marriage saying like, are you okay? Is anything wrong? Because I didn't get it. And sometimes his reactions to things weren't as intense. Like I came from like Italian family, so like everything's like a big intense thing. And so I wasn't used to that. But you know what? Just because he's like that doesn't mean that he needs to be different. So, you know, he's really been helpful and supportive through like my anxiety and depression challenges as well. And so I just have started more intentionally just to give him that chance or that I can't think of the word, that space to be able to, you know, be him also because he allows me to be me. So we give him that space, or I give him that space because you know, he isn't me. So how can I expect him to accept me if I can't accept him? So we can live in an environment and a space in our minds that are very different and be accepting. Like during COVID, I got to the point where like at first I asked him, you know, I need this from you. You know, we got to work together and blah, blah, blah. And you know what? He didn't give it to me. So I finally got to the place where I was like, screw it. Like, if you can't do it for me, I'll do it for myself. And I'm done having expectations. And maybe that doesn't work with everybody, but it was empowering because I was like, I do not need you to do this or to make me feel a certain way. I need to learn to empower myself and make myself feel a certain way. So yeah, sorry, that was so long. I didn't need to go into that much detail, but it's definitely something that I totally understand, totally identify with what you're saying, and it makes sense, you know, in that type of situation. So I'm Summer, and I'm complete.
Yay, thank you. I mean, I'm gonna say thank you because it allows us to know, like, look, we're not alone, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not, you know, just because I feel like, you know, when people, you know that, you know, he does all the cooking or he does they're like, that's not really the wife role. I mean, I don't think they say that,
Who
but
gives a shit? Yeah, but that's what they're thinking.
I'm saying like it's nice to know that, you know, we're seen. There's more of us. We have a village, thank goodness. And I think a lot of it is Clubhouse has really allowed me to network more than anything,
Mm.
for a village, for a community of ADHD. And on not only that is the big umbrella, but there's so many topics from the parenting to the spouse. Thank you, Sarah, because it is nice to sometimes hear the other side, which is what you bring. So I love that. And then, you know, when it even to organizational tips that help a relationship. So yeah, thanks again. It's full.
Yeah, awesome, Melissa. Okay, Evie, how are you, my friend?
Hey, how's everybody doing? This is Evie Titan.
Good.
I had to say that it's required. Hello, Sarah. I'm so glad to see you. I'm gonna miss you.
Hi.
Uh, when you gonna have your rooms?
Sorry. Oh, it was funny you mentioned that earlier, everybody. You were asking about Clubhouse. I've been on a little bit of a break lately. Stuff's been going on with us that's just like really a lot, and I just kind of had to take a moment. But I will get my rooms going back again very, very soon. Okay.
Yeah, you got a new job and stuff, and kids home for the summer and blah. What the heck was I gonna? Oh, I really don't have. You know, I mean, I was married, and then I had a long term relationship, and the marriage. I don't know. I mean. I don't know how much ADHD had to do with it or how much I found some self esteem and deserved that I didn't need to be treated like property. But the long term relationship I was gosh, in my 20s when we first started seeing each other, and by then I had been on the antidepressant. You know, I hadn't been diagnosed. I'd been misdiagnosed on that antidepressants, a zombie, no motivation. Everything was not now. And he kept complaining that I didn't have any ambition. And I'm just like, dude, if you knew me in college, you would not be saying this. And uh, I would, you know, hate myself because I'm like, I know I can do this. And I was just so confused as to why I could not uh, find the drive that I had in my younger years. And I thought maybe that I had just finally been so stressed out that uh, I was broken or whatever, that I had used up all of my energy in my lifetime in my 20s and early 30s. And there was no way I was going to get better. And he just kept uh, criticizing, and instead of being supportive, you know, and trying to figure out what was wrong or whatever. And, you know, he ended up breaking up with me basically because I had no ambition or motivation or anything like that. And, you know, and then since, you know, this is the story we've heard from hundreds of people here, got my diagnosis on the right medication, got some systems put in. And, you know, I'm further along now in the past 6 months than I was, you know, in the past 20 years. And, but, you know, now I don't know what to do about a relationship. So I commend you for, you know, making it work and all that kind of stuff. How long were y'all married before um you was it Melissa Orlov's book that was the beginning, or how long was
Um,
that?
well, so actually, it's funny. It wasn't her book. I had sort of, I think I maybe knew about it, but I was like, I just didn't I just didn't really think that ADHD, I just did not put weight on ADHD as a thing. I don't know why. It's like it just wasn't, I mean, neither of us, you know. So I went on Facebook and searched for a group of people married to people with ADHD. I found a group and joined the group. I scrolled through the posts and I spent the next week with my jaw dropped. that that's kind of what happened. I was like, I just I couldn't believe it. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. It was just crazy. Like the posts were my life. Um and just one after another. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. So many of the same dynamics. Then I heard about her book. I read her book. I loved her book. I think she's fantastic. Melissa Orlov, by the way, for anybody who's like, what are you talking about? She wrote a book called The ADHD Effect on Marriage. And then we did her couples seminar. She has like an 8-week couples seminar. And I did her support group for partners. And it just kept going from there.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning.
How many years were y'all married before you started?
Um, let's see, about 6 years.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's a lot of people on there who are like, we've been together 30 years and I'm just now figuring this out.
Oh, goodness.
So yeah, I mean, I hope that, and that's the funny thing, like, right? I bet everybody here is gonna relate with this. I'm like, okay, is the world exploding with ADHD information right now, or am I just in a bubble that's all I talk about and all I associate with is all these other people who are talking about it, like you amazing folks, you know? Because it's just like now I'm seeing so much, and so I hope that people are going to be more aware of what it is and how it's impacting relationships and just go in with the tools and knowledge and education about it. I mean, I feel that way about my daughter. I just feel so relieved that we realized at age 7, right as she was turning 7, this year, like, oh, she's got ADHD too, you know, and I'm just thrilled about that. So I'm overjoyed about that, to be able to understand her. And anyway, I hope that that's the case too with ADHD. I feel like reducing the stigma and getting the word out is just so crucial. So everybody, because it's all over the place, and so everybody can do better with their relationships and um happiness.
Yeah.
um
Yeah, I wonder this
yeah.
thing from time to time. Am I just in a bubble, or is this, more prevalent and open? So yeah. So thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you for sharing, Evie.
I really appreciate the way that you're specifically handling this, but the book that you just recommended, I do not recommend to the ADHD partner because it is incredibly condescending to the ADHD partner and can cause a lot of RSD within the ADHD partner. So, I just wanted to point that out. Thank you. My name's Chris.
Sarah, how did you feel? Did you feel like that was condescending to you or no?
No. I wondered if you thought that, Chris, from our exchange on Instagram the other day. So I think we should connect so I can learn more about that. I'm very, very, very interested. I had heard like maybe a post or something like that, like people had said that reviewers thought that, but when I first was involved with it and read it, it was I was just learning about ADHD, and I knew nothing about um, you know, just sort of like really understanding neurodivergence and the different approaches to it and different attitudes about it, and how some of it can be super condescending. Um, and so maybe if when I read it now, I'll be able to see that more. So I'm totally open to that. And, but as of now, in my experience with it, I didn't see that at all. And I think my husband found it extremely helpful too. So, um,
Oh, it can
but
definitely be helpful. It just has a lot of teeth in it. So just putting that caveat on it.
teeth in it, like they're bad because they have ADHD, kind of a thing.
Yeah, I don't have full words for it yet. I just wouldn't
Okay, that's fair.
recommend it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I really appreciate that, and I think I would love to keep talking about it with you.
Awesome. I think that's great. I love actually enjoying something and learning something, and then my husband's a super like rebuttal person, so even if there isn't any rebuttal, he just like makes one up or something. But I love having like those conversations with him because they feel um like I love looking at the other viewpoint. So yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Chris. Hi Priscilla, how are you?
Hello, hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I never know with these headsets.
Oh yes, totally.
I love listening to you all talk. I just wanted to chat about sex and money, if that's okay. Um, I so my name is Priscilla. I have ADHD and OCD that was diagnosed during the pandemic, but something I've always known has been a part of me my entire life. I have been with my neurotypical partner for 26 years. And so I feel like I have done a lot of trial and error. And I could pass on some tips that might help people. When it comes to sex and money, those are the two big topics that over 26 years have probably been the most frequent source of disagreement or hurt feelings. And so when Sarah was talking about honesty earlier and communication, that definitely hits home. And I would say that it's really important if you have a neurotypical partner that finding neutral territory to discuss sex and money, it's really important because in the heat of the moment, especially when it comes to sex, when one person is amped up and the other is not, that is not a great time to troubleshoot and communicate any thoughts on what's going on, because there's going to be hurt feelings. There's going to be something that offends the other partner, and then it just downward spiral from there. And the same with money. If a partner is coming to the other one and saying, why did you spend money on this? Or what was this for? It can just automatically put people on the defensive and start an argument. So what I have learned over, and it's taken 26 years to get to this point, is that finding neutral territory to discuss matters has made all of the difference when we're both calm, especially me with my OCD and ADHD. My emotions pretty well run my entire day, my entire life, and affects every aspect of being a wife and mother. Um, so what we have done is, when it's date night, which is really, really important, anytime we have alone together, away from our home, away from our kids, away from our animals, if we're just grabbing lunch together and having a drink, that is a great time to discuss things like, hey, I'm sorry I wasn't in the mood last night, but here's why, and here's what's going on with me. Or when this thing happened in the bedroom, it made me really uncomfortable, and I didn't want to say anything right then because I didn't want to hurt your feelings, but can we not do that again, or can we do it a different way? And I just find my husband has been so much more receptive in those moments when we're calm and not actually like trying to have sex in that moment. And the other thing with money, when he has learned with me that I am obviously a big impulsive spender, I will decide, this week I'm going to try cake decorating, and I'm going to buy $200 of cake decorating supplies on Amazon, and the boxes all arrive, and I can see the stress on my husband's face, like, what is all this for, and all these expenses. And so what we've learned to do is, um, one, I try to be proactive, like, hey, I feel like I'm having an ADHD moment and wanting to spend a lot of money on this and this, and I'll create a wish list on Amazon and share it with him. Um, or if it's already happened, what he's tried doing with me is just sending me an email like, here's it once a week. He only gets to do this once a week. So I know that on Friday, I'm going to get an email from him going over expenses over the last week. And he'll say, here's this amount. What was this for? In a very neutral tone, and not trying to start any arguments or come at me. And because it's in an email, it really gives me time to process and think about what I've spent money on over the last week. And it's forced me to be more accountable, knowing that it used to be just high anxiety. At the end of the month, I've spent all this money, hidden boxes around the house, and whatever my latest hobby is, and just having to defend myself in the heat of the moment when I can't account for all of the expenses that have happened. So that was it. I just wanted to touch on those two things. Oh, one more thing regarding sex. Trigger warning. If you've had any sexual abuse or trauma in the past, it makes communication that much harder, and that much harder to deal with for your partner, because one of you is coming from a space of PTSD or trauma, and the other one isn't. Like, sex is easy for one and not so easy for the other. So I just wanted to reiterate communication, honesty, neutral territory before or after you've had sex, but not during the moment, is super important. So I'm Priscilla, and I'm complete.
Dang, Priscilla, you touched on some really, really good topics. Yeah, I definitely feel like and it seems like a theme, but communication, absolutely the whole way through. When you can understand your partner, in you're in the relationship, and you're mindful of what your challenges are, and then actually, we talked about this in another room, which you might appreciate, Priscilla, about sex. We did sex and ADHD. And yeah, if you haven't signed up for the summit, you should go sign up for the summit, because then you can get the replays. So just ADHDrise.com. But yeah, we did. We talked about that, and it was such a good conversation, because we did talk about that safety and trust factor that transfers to the physical, the sexual relationship. So yeah, that would be great. So, but you gave some really good tips and advice. Sarah, did you have anything to add, or Val?
I thought it was great. Yeah. What she said is, I found for myself, like for both my partner and I, finding that neutral spot where we're not distracted, it's not a busy time. And that's something I've kind of taught my husband too, is like, check with me. Fine, if I'm in the middle of something and like I'm not going to be listening and you tell me something important, like that's not a good time. So just like communicating that. And then also for him, like if he's watching football, forget about it. If he's doing something on his phone, forget about it. So we find a neutral place. I usually bring up heated things or heavier things when we are out, fishing together or hiking. And that seems to be a good spot for us so that it's not like threatening, and also so that we're both kind of in a neutral, calm space.
Yeah, I just concur. The note about getting out and away from all the stressors and into a different space to talk about big things is huge. It's just huge. Yeah. Yeah, thanks for that contribution, Priscilla.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Priscilla. We appreciate you being here. Okay, Christy, how are you, girl?
Hey, thanks for bringing me up. I don't want, I want to be mindful because it looks like it's after 10:30 now, and I didn't know how long the room was supposed to last. So I just wanted to know, if it's still okay to talk about something now, or would it be better to just, do it later?
We're
Like
so on the same page, girl. I was just messaging about that. So yeah, you're good. We have time. So go.
yeah, and unfortunately, I mean, yeah, um, Evie's gone, but I actually have a totally different sort of take on like how I've run my life, which is that I just haven't been in any relationships, and no, I mean I've been in relationships obviously, but I mean I haven't. I'm currently single, and it's frustrating to me. And I just found out that I have ADD or ADHD now, actually, and it makes so much more sense about a lot of the stuff that I've dealt with. And yeah, so I'm not really sure, I guess, where to go with what I was thinking. Just that, um, yeah, this is now I'm all like discombobulated.
Well, I,
But yeah, go ahead, please.
Christy, did something that Evie talked about sort of strike you as something that you were identifying with?
Um, well, yeah, to some extent. I mean, I think she sort of felt the same way that I did in a way. Um, but yeah, no, it's not. It's gone now. Okay, well, I'm just gonna call it a day. But it was
Don't
really
you worry.
wonderful to meet
We
you, Sarah.
get you, Christy. We get you. It's fine. If you want to keep talking, if you want to take a moment and then come back, I think we're going to keep going for a bit. Right?
Yeah, we can go for a little bit longer. We usually run like an hour and a half. So
Yeah. So just stay up, Christy, and then if you want to come back, feel free. Right, Val? I don't want to take over, but I'm assuming that's what.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, it's good.
And Summer.
Well, I know that there's probably people here that are hearing this conversation and they're like, yeah, I definitely want to get some advice, get some consultation, sit down with you, get some coaching, is there any way that how can they best work with you, and what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah. So um, that's me just kind of being like, where am I? No, which me, myself, and I, um, are now doing 30-minute consultations, of course, no charge or anything like that, but 30 minutes where we get on the phone and just talk about what's up and strategies and how can we are there any little tidbits that I can share that might be helpful? And I have a Calendly link set up now, so just message me. You can message me on the app here, whatever is the easiest for you, and I can send you that Calendly link. And then if you'd like, you can grab time. And I would love to talk to anybody that would like to.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'm curious to know, what type of coaching do you usually do? Like, are you working with spouses of ADHD partners? Are you working with ADHD with women? What's your niche? Who do you like to work with?
Yes. So it's mostly the spouses with an ADHD partner. Now I say that because that is my story, and I think that at this stage, that is where I can be the most helpful. I am totally open to doing it differently. I've had a lot of folks who are the ADHD partner reach out to me, and I, that works too. I just know that it works well going that way. So open to all. And then the other thing that I have are support groups where it's a relationship impacted, where ADHD is impacting the relationship. So that means that like the partner has ADHD, whether the person in the group has ADHD as well doesn't matter, but the idea is that the partner has ADHD, and so we're all talking about our relationships because in that way. So those are the things that that's kind of where it's at now, and it very well may evolve into more focus with ADHD folks, but that's not where it's at the moment. That was a little bit of a rambly answer. I try not to be too rambly, so thanks for bearing with.
I was gonna say we're all ADHD. A lot of us are in here are ADHD, so we're used to the rambly answer. So that was actually very precise. For
I know,
you should.
and
I mean,
everyone
sometimes.
always says that, and I'm always hanging out in these rooms with everybody else has ADHD, and everyone's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I interrupt so much. It's ADHD," and I'm always like, I'm the worst interrupter." It's something that I work really hard on. Like, don't interrupt, don't interrupt, don't interrupt. So anyway, yeah, glad you understand, Val. Thank
Totally get it. It looks like we have Suzanne has a question as well. Hello.
Hi there. No, when you just said the whole bit about interrupting and ADHD, and so I joined the app in April, and the first thing that Professor Asif, I don't know if anybody knows him, but I was on a stage and I was talking, and he goes, Suzanne, I'm going to interrupt you. I have ADHD, so I can interrupt you. And I said, oh. And then he said, you have ADHD and you need to learn like not to interrupt. And I'm like, oh, well, thank you very much. And then a month later, my son was diagnosed with ADHD. Yes, I've had ADHD all my life and I've dealt with it. And I learned about Clubhouse. What I do is I just mute myself. And oftentimes when you're talking, I'm talking with you because that's just who I am and that's how I operate. It's called ADHD. That's what we do. So like to hear you say, hey, we all ramble. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm rambling along. A lot of times though, I mute myself so you don't have to hear me ramble. I'm Suzanne. I'm done.
Thanks, Suzanne. Yes, we all feel like that. We are all allowed to ramble. We are totally fine with that. So, and we don't apologize in this room. Val and I said, even though we both say sorry all the time, but yeah, don't worry about it. It is what it is. I will be mid-sentence, have no idea what I'm talking about anymore, and just kind of go with it. And I don't know if anyone can tell or not, but I can make up for it. So, yeah, Chris, did you have any questions? or did you have a comment? I can't remember. If did
No,
we get
yeah,
two?
I am just really, Sarah, I just want to like give you your flowers. I really appreciate the direction that you're going in the way that you're speaking. I really appreciate um where you're coming from in a way that I don't find condescending at all, which I was super excited about, right? And I'm sorry that I jumped in on that book, but just as someone that just read that book and was like, yo, the information is great. It's good information, but it's just, if you're in it, it's a little bit like, from where I'm standing and from where I've talked to a lot of other people with ADHD. I'm like, hey, am I alone in this? They're like, no, that was horrible. So I just wanted to, in a room full of ADHD people, just put that kind of almost trigger warning on it. But I really appreciate the way that you specifically talk about having a partner with ADHD.
Thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate that. It means a lot. I'm so glad to hear it, and I'm so excited to keep talking with you. And there's just so much goodness to come out of all of this. So yeah. So thanks. And that I'm as I said before, I'm excited to learn more from you about the book and look back at it again myself. So nothing wrong with that for sure.
I love it. This is like, I swear, ADHD people and this community is so freaking collaborative and amazing. Like, I love that we can just sit here and have conversations and not agree and be graceful and beautiful because we don't get to experience that in the real world. A matter of fact, the current culture we're in, there's a lot of like making, if you're right, then other people are wrong. And I love that in this space that there is so much understanding and kind of like, what we just experienced. Like, let's meet at the level and understand. Let's understand what's going on. Let's understand what's happening with ADHD. And that's definitely, in sharing experiences, even if they don't match, my beliefs may not match up with your beliefs. Your opinion may not match with my opinion. And it's cool. We're all here to rise together, right? And that's the whole intention of this summit, is to just get education, to take what you need and leave the rest. Because when I rise, you rise,
We
we rise
rise
together.
together.
So I love that we've experienced that firsthand today, that there's things that as a non ADHD person, you may not understand, but we can say, okay, help show me. And as I don't understand a neurotypical brain. How do you show up on time? How do you not like do these crazy things? How do you think logically? I don't understand that sometimes, but I love that we can learn and sit in a circle and experience that together. So I think, oh, go ahead, Summer.
Oh yeah, I was just thinking like even yesterday in the room that we were in when we had I can't remember her name, but we talked about like the holistic approach. That's always a difficult one for me. Just because I think it's because I have epilepsy and I have to take medication whether I like it or not. So I have like some like difficult emotions and thoughts around that. And so even like listening to her, I was trying to be super open-minded and even like, making comments. I loved that like I was able to do that and I was able to have that conversation. She's ADHD too, and she shared so many amazing things. And, just because we're different or that we have differing beliefs, it is amazing. We are in a cancel culture or a cancel culture is like a thing, we are I cannot believe the things that I hear, especially from my teenagers, and these people are canceled, and it's really ridiculous. So I am glad that we can bring that to the table as individuals with ADHD. So I am truly grateful for that, Sarah, for you being here and for really bringing that type of discussion to the table. So thanks. And I will turn it back over to Vat for a second.
All right. Christy, were you ready to share?
Oh, no, not really. I was just clapping because I'm so in agreement with what's happening, that this cancel culture is really, I think it's really bad. I think it's just really bad for people. But unfortunately, that's currently where we're living now. So, oh well. And I was also clapping for some of the other stuff because obviously I'm a holistic healer and that's what I do. And so I was clapping for what Summer was saying. So I was just being along. I did,
Yay!
and I did realize Chris was talking again. I wanted to know what the title of that book was that everybody keeps talking about is so terrible. So, because I didn't catch it the first time, and I still don't know exactly which book it is.
It's
But you know, I
Melissa
think.
Orlov, Orlov. She wrote The ADHD Effect on Marriage. And then she wrote another book about couples. I think it's called maybe it's The Couple's Guide to Thriving. Maybe that one is, maybe, I have no idea, but as Chris was talking earlier, I was thinking, I wonder if she got that feedback and then the second book does a better job. So, but I've not touched the second book. I don't know. It's just a thought I had today. So, but that's it. And it is recommended by me, although I'm going to go reread it and check things. So maybe not. And it is not recommended by Chris. So take that into consideration as you jot down that name.
Well, yeah, no, the reason that I said that is because to me, if I know going in up front that maybe that's the way that somebody feels about it, then I can read it with a more critical eye and
Sure.
I'm more willing to take the information and just not take it so personally. And I also think that when people, I think it helps to not take things personally, and unfortunately that's just what we do as humans. We take everything personally, and I strive not to do that, but it's so easy to do, and it just happens. And also I know about I've just recently heard that term, the rejection. I keep getting the RSD, but I keep getting I can't remember the darn acronym, but
Rejection, sensitivity, dysphoria.
thank you. Dysphoria. Yeah. And so I need to do some more research on that because I know for me, like I took everything personally as a kid, like all the time. And I was always being told not to take things personally, like my whole entire life. And I'm still working on it. And I wonder if that was one of the reasons that that was the case, because obviously I didn't find out I was ADHD until later in life. So anyway, that's about everything. I think I've got most everything. So thank you for letting me speak again, even though I was all over the place. And this is Christy, and I'm done speaking for now. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. I love it, Christy. I so relate with you. And yeah, like I remember when I was still working in jobs, my bosses almost always would say, "Man, you just handle stress so well. Oh my gosh, we never even know that things are falling apart." And then you come to us and you're like, "Oh my gosh, that was crazy. And I got through it." And they're always like their downfall would always be like, "You just take things really personally." And I didn't understand what they meant. I was like, "No, I don't. I don't take things personally." Blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like, oh my gosh, really? And I see myself still doing that with my husband. He'll say something and I'm like taking it so personal and it's ridiculous. But you know, we get to work on that. We're a work in progress. So, yeah, you guys, for anyone who's just popping in or has been part of this conversation, thank you so much. This is the ADHD Rise Summit. We are going all month. This week, we're talking a lot about relationships. We'll be talking about entrepreneurship, business. We have Santina Carlson will be here this afternoon. And you guys put this in your calendars. She's going to be talking about job and career supports that you can get in place. You know, yesterday we had talked about some supports you can get for your children. And this will be really good to know how to like advocate for yourself as an adult and the types of, you know, jobs and career supports you can have in your career as an adult. And so definitely check that out. You can go to ADHDrise.com, sign up for all the details, and you'll know what the topics are so you can pick and choose what you want to be a part of. We were talking to Sarah Lerner today. She was dropping all of the gems. So beautiful. So grateful to have you, my fellow Pacific Northwest girl. Woo woo.
Oh,
And
great. I'm so glad. That makes me so happy.
yay! I know, me too. So excited. And you guys, you can definitely go click on her face and follow her on Instagram. Also, she is offering a 30-minute consultation for anyone who is on here. So if you're interested in that, definitely head over, message her, let her know, say, hey, let's connect. I'd love to get your insight. Would love to share about my specific situation. It will be a beautiful experience. I know I've talked to her on Zoom before and she's amazing, very open. Yeah, just very open and I don't know, like that. What's my experience? Like open and yeah, I guess just open. Like, you're just open, like the type of person you can tell anything to and it's not like gonna feel weird. But we're super excited. Thank you so much, Sarah, for being here and for pouring into all of us. I think we could talk about this all day long. And we're just really grateful. So thank you.
Well, I'm grateful for you two and this wonderful space that you've created, and every one of you who's joined us today, even if we haven't talked or you haven't come up on stage, but every single person here is really a part of it. So I just appreciate all of you, and thanks so much. Let's keep it up. Let's keep up the community, follow each other, stay in touch, and hi friends who are down there that I haven't just talked to in a while. Some of you, and yeah, thanks so much, Val and Summer. And I appreciate. Like I told you, I've been sort of taking a break, so it's been super nice to be back today. It felt really good. So thanks.
Yay. We look forward to seeing more of you and I'm sure future collaborations as well. So
For sure.
woo-hoo. ADHD rise up, everybody. All right, so we get to breathe in all the positive energy that we created today. I'm looking at each and every single one of you creating connection. You're seen, you're loved, you're beautiful, you are unique, you are dynamic, and damn it, you're not broken. Your brain is just different. I
Love
love you
that.
guys.
Damn it.
Damn it. I dropped the D bomb there for you.
Oh
Damn it,
my
you're not broken.
gosh. You're
I
canceled,
do.
cultured. Culture
Right.
canceled, whatever.
I say let's cancel fear instead of canceling
You're
people, but
canceled.
that's my thing.
Oh,
So yeah, you guys, we love you. And remember, this is ADHD Rise. When I rise, you rise,
we
we rise
rise together.
together. My name is Val
Bye,
Nichols.
everyone.
This is Summer Christiansen right next to me, my girl, my co-host. We love you. We're sending you so much positive energy and vibes. We're sending you all the love. And with that, we will close the room.
Thank you both. Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
Bye
Sarah.
bye.
This has been amazing. Thank you. Bye, everybody.